You weren't born to sit in the audience and watch the world unfold. You were born with the spark of fire behind your ribs, a restless force that refuses to settle. You may have buried it under doubt, under comfort, under the soft lull of routines and compromise, but it's still there. The pulse, the possibility, the defiance. And one day, you will either answer it or die with it, echoing unanswered inside your bones. Entrepreneurship is not a job title. It's a worldview, a stance, a decision, the ultimate decision to stand tall in a world that bows. It's the quiet contract signed in solitude. I will not betray my potential for the illusion of safety. Look around. The world is filled with factories of average, offices echoing with lifeless small talk, eyes glazed over with distractions, souls trading time for survival, never catching the scent of significance. And then there are those who say number, no to limitation, no to being told when to eat, when to sleep, when to dream. They are not reckless. They are not entitled. They are simply awake, and they carry in them the sacred virus of vision. But vision alone will not carry you. Ideas are cheap. Everyone has one in their pocket. What separates the entrepreneur from the dreamer is not imagination. It is execution. It is discipline. It is the unsexy, lonely grind in the dark before the light ever agrees to shine. And it begins always with values. See, you can chase money, and you may get rich, but you'll stay poor if you don't have principles. Money without meaning is just expensive emptiness. Power without character is a loaded gun in a child's hand. The real entrepreneur builds from the inside out, not the outside in. And so I ask you, not what's your product, not what's your business model, but what's your code? What's your creed? Because in the storms of uncertainty, when the numbers drop and the clients walk, when the deals fall through and the bank account mocks you with silence, it won't be strategy that saves you. It will be integrity. It will be the anchor of your values that holds the ship while the winds tear at your sails. Discipline is the first value. Not the kind you post about, but the kind that shows up when no one's clapping. Waking up at 5 a.m. to build what no one sees yet. Saying no to every temptation that pulls you away from who you're becoming. The discipline to keep promises you made to yourself when you were inspired, even when you're no longer in the mood. That is the price of freedom. Next, responsibility. Not the kind forced upon you, but the kind you claim like a badge of honor. When something breaks, don't look for blame, look for your reflection. The entrepreneur doesn't say, it's their fault. He says, what could I have done differently? Because in that moment, he takes back control. And control is the entrepreneur's oxygen. Courage follows, not the loud kind, not arrogance wrapped in bravado, but the quiet roar of someone who walks into risk with his eyes wide open, who chooses uncertainty over regret, who speaks when it's easier to stay silent, who bets on himself when the world calls it madness. You want to succeed? Then fall in love with failure. Wrap your arms around rejection. Dance with discomfort like it's your only partner. Because the entrepreneur doesn't hide from fear, he sits with it, learns its name, and moves forward anyway. And then there's vision, not fantasy, not a Pinterest board, but a clear, visceral picture in your soul of the world you are creating. Entrepreneurs don't wait for permission to build it. They begin with torn shoes, with trembling hands, with nothing but fire in their chest and truth in their voice. And you know what's strange? The world steps aside for the one who knows where he's going. But vision is not enough unless it is rooted in service. You don't win by taking, you win by giving more value than anyone expects. You don't sell, you solve. You don't hustle, you help. Real entrepreneurs leave people better than they found them. They inject excellence into every moment, not because they have to, but because it's who they are. Because they know the game is not just to win, but to elevate. And with service comes humility. You are not above the work. You are not too important to sweep the floor or answer the phone. The ego is the enemy of expansion. But humility, that's the soil in which greatness grows. Stay grounded. Stay teachable. The moment you believe you've arrived, you've already started to decay. Communication is another value, not just speaking, but connecting. The entrepreneur knows how to cast a vision with clarity, how to sell an idea with conviction, how to inspire a team with language that lands in the soul. Words move the world. Learn to wield them with precision and heart. And then relationships. The entrepreneur understands he cannot walk this road alone. Build people, and they will build your dream. Choose integrity over manipulation. Loyalty over convenience. Honor over profit. Because the quality of your connections will determine the depth of your impact. You want to build a business? Build trust first. And then there's resilience. The grit to get up one more time than you fall. The decision to bleed with your purpose rather than survive with someone else's plan. There will be days when you question everything, when silence answers your prayers and loneliness curls around your neck like a cold scarf. But you must keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. You're not here to have it handed to you. You're here to prove to yourself that you are forged in the fire. Self-awareness, too, is non-negotiable. You must know your patterns, your shadows, your triggers. If you don't master yourself, you will sabotage your empire before it ever finds its legs. Your business will never outgrow your psychology. So get honest. Peel back the layers. Do the hard internal work, because the man who leads himself needs no leash. And finally, faith. Not in a religion, not in the economy, not even in the product, but in yourself. In the seed planted within you since the beginning. Faith that even in droughts, you are still destined to bloom. That every setback is a setup. That you were called not to conform, but to create. And you're not done until the vision breathes on its own. This is entrepreneurship, not a job, not a phase, but a posture of living. It is the refusal to die without giving the world your music. The relentless pursuit of becoming the kind of person success cannot ignore. The daily, deliberate act of standing for something when everything around you begs you to shrink. And so I ask you, are you willing to live without applause? To build when it's just you and your shadow? To keep your word when no one is watching? Because that's the test. That's the gauntlet. That's the real resume. Not your college degree. Not your pitch deck. But the decisions you make in private when the world offers you the easy exit. If you are willing to pay the price of discipline, of risk, of self-confrontation, of delayed gratification, then entrepreneurship is not a gamble. It's a guarantee. Because the world is not changed by those who wait. It is changed by those who become. Then listen closely, because the next step isn't about tactics, it's about transformation. Entrepreneurship is not what you do, it's who you must become. You see, the marketplace will pay you not for your intentions, not for your potential, not even for your hustle. It pays you for your value. And value is not born from activity. Value is born from identity. Who you are determines what your work becomes. A man who doesn't trust himself cannot build a product others will trust. A person who has not yet conquered their own mind cannot lead others to clarity. And so it begins with you. The internal empire must be built before the external one ever rises. You must, without hesitation, without apology, without delay, commit to growth, daily, ruthlessly, authentically, because the version of you that got you here is not the version that will take you where you are destined to go. You will have to let go. Let go of old beliefs, of borrowed fears, of habits that betray your dreams. You will have to kill the small self inside you, the one addicted to comfort, to validation, to certainty, and resurrect the version of you that is capable of bearing the weight of greatness. Don't envy the man who made it. Study him. Understand that what you see now is just the fruit, but the root was cultivated in private. Late nights, early mornings, hard conversations, self-control, self-denial, long seasons of invisible effort. He said no when others said yes. He chose focus when others chose noise. He became what the vision required. That is the game. That is the cost. That is the sacred contract of entrepreneurship, that you will become the type of human whose very presence upgrades the room, whose words carry conviction, whose actions align with their values. Because leadership, real leadership, is not about being followed, it's about becoming someone worth following. And here's the truth, no one wants to say out loud, it is easier to build a six-figure product than a six-figure character. It is easier to chase clicks than to chase internal coherence. But without alignment, without a soul that matches the speech, you will collapse under the weight of your own ambition. This is why self-discipline is not optional. It is the foundation. It is the bridge between your intention and your impact. You must be able to command yourself, to do what is right, not what is easy. to be the last man standing when the feelings fade. Discipline is doing it without the fire, without the music, without the dopamine rush, because you've made a vow to your future self. And make no mistake, the moment you decide to step out to pursue your dream, to build your brand, to live your calling, resistance will rise. Doubt will knock. Fear will whisper. The crowd will mock. And your old identity will beg for the comfort of invisibility. But that is the test. That is the filter. The universe asking one question. Do you want it enough to become the person who deserves it? Because nothing lasting is built by accident. It is built by principle, by design, by core values so deep that when the winds howl and the storm comes, you remain rooted. Let me ask you, what are your non-negotiables? What will you not trade for money? What will you not compromise for growth? What lines will you never cross, even when no one's watching? This is the heart of legacy. You do not just build a brand, you build a reputation, a vibration, a memory. People don't remember what you sold, they remember how you made them feel. And if they trust your character, they will buy your vision. They will follow your lead. They will amplify your mission with their own breath. But if your values are fake, if you chase wealth without wisdom, scale without soul, influence without integrity, you may rise quickly, but you will fall even faster. The world does not need more marketers. It needs more builders, more leaders, more honest craftsmen who would rather fail with honor than win with deceit. This is the call. Build something that matters. Build something that reflects you, not the trends, not the noise, not the competition, but the fire in your own chest. Don't imitate, innovate. Don't chase their dream. Manifest your own, and you will not do it alone. You will need allies, not employees, not tools, but warriors with shared values. Choose them not for skill, but for spirit. Surround yourself with those who have scars, who've bled for their mission, who've tasted failure and kept going. Because success loves company, but legacy requires community. You see, one man with a vision is powerful, but a team aligned around shared values is unstoppable. So speak your values, live them, breathe them, etch them into every decision. Make them visible in how you hire, how you serve, how you respond when things go wrong. When trust is your currency, the market will always be open. When authenticity is your message, your story will sell itself. When consistency becomes your rhythm, the world will begin to notice, and then they will begin to follow. But do not do it for the applause. Do it because it's who you are. Because in the end, the real reward is not the money or the stage or the spotlight. The real reward is waking up each day with the quiet fire of knowing you are living aligned. No masks, no pretending, no compromise. That's wealth. That's success. That's the soul of entrepreneurship. Now, take a breath and ask yourself one terrifying, electrifying question. Who do I need to become to live the life I've been pretending to want? And when you answer not with words, but with action, with sacrifice, with relentless pursuit, that's the moment everything changes. That's the day you stop chasing your dream and start embodying it. There is a war happening every day inside the heart of every entrepreneur, a quiet battle between who you were and who you are called to become. And every decision, every hesitation, every discipline honored or abandoned is a vote for one or the other. You don't transform your life in one leap. You transform it through thousands of tiny choices, repeated with reverence. You want to change your business? Then change the energy you bring into every room. You want to change your income? Then change the way you speak, the way you lead, the way you serve. You want to shift your future? Then shift your standard. Set the bar so high that your past self wouldn't dare reach for it, and then rise to meet it. Because wealth is not just money. Wealth is alignment. It's walking through the fire of your own evolution and emerging clear, clean, and convicted. It's creating value so pure, so honest, that people feel richer just by being in your presence. It's not about chasing dollars. It's about becoming so valuable that dollars chase you. And don't you ever let the world convince you that ambition is arrogance, that striving is greed, that wanting more is wrong. No, what's wrong is settling. What's wrong is shrinking. What's wrong is watching your life waste away in a cycle of regret and resentment because you were too afraid to step forward. You were not born to play small. You were born to expand, to stretch, to shake the ground when you walk into a room, to live so fully that mediocrity trembles in your shadow. But that requires pain. The pain of letting go. The pain of becoming. The pain of sacrifice. Growth hurts because you're shedding what no longer fits. Because you're saying goodbye to the comfort of conformity and saying yes to the discomfort of destiny. And that pain is sacred. It's the sacred ache of becoming who you were always meant to be. You must learn to endure it, to welcome it, to trust it. Because entrepreneurship is not an escape from pain. It's a strategic decision to choose meaningful pain over meaningless suffering. It's easy to stay comfortable and call it gratitude. Easy to stay stuck and call it patience. But true gratitude is building on the gift. And true patience is planting, tending, watering, not waiting passively. There is a difference between contentment and complacency, and the entrepreneur knows exactly where that line is drawn. You are here to move, to create, to disrupt, to rebuild, to take raw chaos and forge order, to take brokenness and infuse meaning, to take impossibility and drag it into reality through the sheer force of your intention and integrity. And don't forget, the most important asset in your business is not capital, it's not a product, it's not a funnel, it's not even your team, it's your mindset. Because your business will only grow to the level of your beliefs. If your mind is still wired for scarcity, no abundance will stick. If you still believe you are unworthy, no client contract will quiet that lie. Your outer success is just a mirror reflecting your inner structure. You don't fix the mirror, you fix the man. So renew your mind daily. Rewire it with truth. Feed it with greatness. Cut out the noise. Starve your doubts. Stop consuming content that distracts you from your calling. Turn your focus inward. Train your thoughts like an athlete trains his body, relentlessly, methodically, with obsession. Because if your mind bends, your mission breaks. It's not enough to think positively. You must think powerfully, clearly, strategically, and that requires mental discipline, emotional control, and spiritual focus. You cannot lead others if you are still lost in your own head. You cannot command a movement if you cannot command your emotions. You cannot sell freedom if you live in inner bondage. That is why mastery matters. Not performance, not hype. Mastery. Deep, relentless, honest, brutal mastery of your craft, yourself, your communication, your execution. The marketplace does not reward dabblers. It rewards those who go deep. It rewards the obsessed, the committed, the students of the game. So whatever you choose to build, master it. Own it. Obsess over it. Fall in love with the details, the systems, the delivery, the user experience, the brand, the vision. Become so good they can't ignore you because excellence is magnetic. But mastery also means knowing your limits, knowing when to rest, when to recalibrate, when to step back and hear your own voice again. Because burnout is not proof of passion. It is proof of misalignment. The entrepreneur must move with urgency, yes, but never desperation. Build fast, but build wisely. Burn bright, but don't burn out. Your mission is a marathon of sprints. Run hard, then rest like a champion. Then rise and run again. And through it all, never forget your why. Why did you start? What called you? What did you see that no one else saw? What was so compelling, so holy, so raw that you said, I will give my life to this? That fire, that is your compass. That is your fuel. That is your edge. Keep it burning. Guard it. Protect it from the cynicism of the world, from the doubt of others, from the cold calculation of business that forgets the heart behind the hustle. Because your why is what makes your business human. And people don't connect with numbers, they connect with story, with vulnerability, with emotion, with mission. The great entrepreneurs are great storytellers, not because they're flashy, but because they tell the truth with fire in their belly and love in their eyes. Your brand is not your logo. It's the story you live. It's the story your clients feel when they work with you. It's the emotion you leave behind in every deal, every email, every voice note, every handshake. Make it real. Make it honest. Make it unforgettable. Because the world doesn't need another clever pitch. It needs your soul, wrapped in service, expressed with excellence. And if you build that, not a product, but a presence, the right people will find you, the right partners, the right customers, the right team. Because truth is magnetic. Energy doesn't lie. You want to scale? Then scale your authenticity. Scale your character. Scale your capacity to carry pressure without collapsing. Because what you build externally will never outrun what you can sustain internally. This is the code. This is the contract. This is the cost. Not everyone is willing to pay it. That's why not everyone is free. But if you choose this path, if you embrace these values, if you hold your vision tighter than your comfort, then there is nothing this world can withhold from you. You will build it. You will live it. You will become it. You are not just an entrepreneur. You are a force. You are a standard. You are a revolution wrapped in skin. And your time is now. The world will not give you what you deserve. It will give you what you demand. Not with words, but with presence. Not with arrogance, but with alignment. When you walk with values stitched into your soul, you don't beg, you attract. You don't chase, you command. Because entrepreneurship is not a game of external persuasion. It is a game of internal radiance. Every day, you are broadcasting a frequency through your tone, your posture, your habits, your follow-through. The question is, does that frequency align with the future you claim to be building? You cannot speak about excellence and walk in inconsistency. You cannot preach integrity and tolerate your own excuses. You cannot wear the crown if your character is still crawling. So rise. First, in the small things. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you start. Do what you promised. No one sees it, but the universe does, and you do. And that's enough. Every time you honor your word, even silently, even painfully, you build a reputation with yourself. And that's the reputation that matters most. The inner scoreboard. You don't need the world to clap if you're clapping for yourself in the dark. And in that darkness, the hours of effort, of doubt, of unseen progress, that is where your future is being built. That is the construction site of your greatness. Don't fear the silence. Don't resent the grind. It's holy ground. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Prepared for leadership, prepared for wealth, prepared for impact. But wealth without wisdom is a curse, and leadership without humility is a danger. So as you rise, stay low in spirit. Stay curious. Stay grateful. Arrogance will kill what discipline built. But humility will take you from success to significance. Because true entrepreneurs aren't just building businesses, they're building legacies. And a legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you live right now. In every decision, every standard, every conversation. It's how you treat the janitor. It's how you handle pressure. It's whether your values hold under heat or melt into convenience. Legacy is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows. It's the quiet power of a man or woman who knows what they stand for and lives it relentlessly when no one's watching. So what do you stand for? Not what sounds good, not what sells, not what's trending, but what you would die for, or at least what you would suffer for. Because anything you're not willing to suffer for, you're not truly committed to. Entrepreneurship is not about working hard. It's about working aligned. About becoming obsessed, not with productivity, but with purpose, with purity, with clarity. When your purpose is clear, your energy becomes clean. You stop doing things just because others are. You stop copying. You stop comparing. You cut away the noise and get laser focused on what's yours. And what's yours can't be taken. It can only be forfeited. And you forfeit it every time you betray your values. You don't lose your dream overnight. You lose it in inches, one small compromise at a time. One email sent without excellence. One deadline missed. One meeting entered unprepared. One conversation where you shrink instead of speak truth. But the opposite is also true. You gain ground every time you honor the small things. You build power with each honest step, each tough decision. Each moment you choose discipline over drama, courage over comfort, patience over panic. That's how empires are built in moments no one sees. So stop waiting for the big break. You are the break. You are the turning point. You are the resource you've been waiting for. And if you would treat every hour like gold, every conversation like an opportunity, every client like a king, every piece of your process with the respect of royalty, then life will rise to meet your standard. Raise your standard and watch your world follow. Because the world reflects not what you want, but what you tolerate. If you tolerate inconsistency, you'll get chaos. If you tolerate procrastination, you'll get pressure. If you tolerate mediocrity, you'll get missed opportunity. But if you tolerate nothing less than clarity, commitment, and character, Your environment will bend to match your frequency. It has no choice. Because aligned energy is magnetic. Because conviction creates gravity. Because real leadership rewrites the room just by entering it. You don't have to yell. You don't have to beg. Just be who you said you'd be, and the world will begin to reorient itself around your integrity. That's the real secret. Not marketing, not branding, not luck, but unshakable, undeniable integrity. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. It can only be lived. And once lived, it echoes through everything you touch. Every product, every interaction, every handshake, every legacy. Because at the end of your life, the only true wealth you will take with you is the person you became. When it's all said and done, when the audience leaves and the spotlight fades, what you're left with is who you are, not what they think, not what they paid, but what you've become. And that truth, that raw reflection, is either a masterpiece or a monument to everything you avoided. You cannot cheat your character and expect your business to thrive. You cannot lie to yourself and expect the market to believe in you. You cannot run from discipline and expect success to chase you down. And so the entrepreneur, the real one, the awakened one, chooses truth over trend, chooses values over vanity, chooses internal wealth over temporary applause. Because success without peace is failure in disguise. And money without meaning is a poverty few recover from. Let's talk about endurance. Because too many people start with fire, but they don't know how to feed it. They burn bright for a moment, then disappear into the fog of inconsistency. But the entrepreneur who lasts isn't the one who had the biggest launch, it's the one who never let the flame go out. Even inventor, even in failure, even in silence, especially in silence. There will be days when nothing makes sense, when the strategy breaks, when the numbers lie, when your own voice trembles. And on those days, you'll hear two voices. One that says, it's not worth it. And one that says, this is the proving ground. Choose the second. Every time. Because greatness is forged in repetition, in resilience, in quiet obedience to the vision, even when your emotions rebel. Especially then, anyone can build when it's easy. But your destiny is unlocked when you build while bleeding, while doubting, while no one claps. That's the sacred space of self-creation. That's where legacy is carved, not in marble, but in the muscle fibers of your resolve. And here's what you need to understand. The climb is supposed to be steep. The delays are not a detour, they're design. The pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. You are being shaped, sanded, refined, because the weight of the dream requires strong shoulders. Because if the vision is big, the preparation must be bigger. If the calling is massive, the character must be immovable. So stop asking for easy. Ask for endurance. Ask for sharpness. Ask for truth. And then hold it. And in holding it, you become it. You become the standard, the structure, the signal in a world addicted to noise. You become the permission others need, the mirror others were too afraid to look into. You become living proof that it can be done without selling your soul, that you can win and still be good, that you can scale and still be kind, that you can lead and still be honest. And when you walk like that, the room shifts before you speak. Because people are starving for something real, something built from the inside out, something that doesn't collapse at the first sign of struggle. They're tired of plastic success, of shiny lies, of fake perfection on rented stages. They want substance. They want soul. They want values with a pulse. So give it to them, not through pitch decks, but through presence, not through strategy, but through story, not through branding, but through becoming. Because who you are will always speak louder than what you sell. And who you are is built one decision at a time. One value honored, one truth told, one standard raised, one habit kept, one distraction denied. That's the real grind, not the hustle, not the 10x slogans, but the sacred grind of showing up as who you said you'd be every day, without excuse, without applause, without needing external validation to justify your internal fire. And when you do that long enough, consistently enough, courageously enough, results show up. They can't not. Because the universe is just. Because energy is contagious. Because the man who refuses to break becomes the man the world must reckon with. You must decide not casually, but with finality, that you are done negotiating with your old self, that you are done shrinking for others, that you are done deferring your power, delaying your calling, diluting your presence to fit in with people who aren't even walking in your direction. There is no greatness in half commitment. There is no freedom in soft promises. There is no revolution in maybe. You must burn the bridges. You must silence the backup plans. You must anchor yourself so deeply in your values that compromise becomes impossible and excellence becomes your reflex. Because this is not just about business. It never was. It's about integrity. It's about legacy. It's about becoming the kind of person your younger self would cry to meet, and your future self will thank for not giving up when everything inside you screamed to quit. That is the journey. That is the fire. That is the core of entrepreneurship. Do not fear the slow build. Do not despise the early days, the awkward starts, the empty inboxes, the late nights with no guarantee. Because those are the sacred days, the foundation days, the days that test the purity of your intent. Anyone can be passionate when they're praised, but only the few can persist when it's quiet. When no one's looking, when nothing's working, when you wonder if it ever will. But here's the truth. The moment you plant the seed, the universe goes to work. Even when nothing seems to be happening above the surface, something is stirring in the soil. Roots are forming. Pressure is building. Depth is taking shape. And if you have the courage to keep watering your vision, it will break through in due time. Not when you beg, not when you rush, but when you're ready. Because entrepreneurship doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you're willing to become. And that requires transformation. Not tweaking, not polishing, not improving the old version of you. No, becoming, reinventing, reshaping the very structure of your identity until your values aren't something you talk about, they're something you bleed. That's the level. That's the frequency where doors swing open, not because you knocked harder, but because you became undeniable. But becoming undeniable starts with radical honesty. You must be honest about your weaknesses, not to shame yourself, but to sharpen yourself. You must be honest about your distractions, not to feel guilt, but to build systems that destroy them. You must be honest about your priorities because your calendar reveals your values more than your words ever will. Look at how you spend your hours. Look at how you treat your team. Look at how you manage money, how you handle adversity, how you speak when you're frustrated. That's your truth. That's your brand. That's the message your values are preaching, even if your mouth stays silent. The entrepreneur doesn't need a pulpit. His decisions are the sermon, and the congregation is watching. Every client, every partner, every family member, every employee. They don't follow your words, they follow your example. So give them something worth imitating. Lead with honor. Operate with transparency. Speak with power and precision. Serve with excellence. And build with obsession, not with results, but with responsibility. You are not just launching a business, you are launching a standard. One that echoes into the world. One that says, here stands someone who will not lie to win. Who will not betray his calling for clout, who will not sell a solution he hasn't lived himself, who will not collapse when pressure rises, but will rise when others collapse. Because when values are your foundation, storms become irrelevant. The winds howl, but your house stands. The economy shifts, but your integrity holds. The trends fade, but your vision endures. That is the power of alignment. That is the protection of principle. That is the shield of soul-driven leadership. So never trade it. Not for speed, not for scale, not for money. Because money without meaning is poverty. Because speed without wisdom is recklessness. Because scale without soul is collapse in slow motion. But when you build slow and strong, when your foundation is made of values, not vanity, then everything you build above the ground becomes unshakable. And make no mistake, you were not put here to blend in. You were not called to match volume. You were designed to raise frequency, to elevate the room, to embody such clarity of vision and integrity of presence that people recalibrate themselves just by being near you. That is leadership. And leadership has nothing to do with position and everything to do with posture. Your posture in adversity, your posture in abundance, your posture when the contract falls through, your posture when the breakthrough finally comes. How do you carry yourself when no one is clapping? How do you respond when someone betrays your trust? How do you speak about others when they're not in the room? That's the real resume. That's the brand people feel before they ever see your logo. So what does your presence say? Does it scream value? Does it reflect discipline? Does it feel safe, sharp, strong, grounded? Or does it carry hesitation, scattered energy, and borrowed ambition? Because people don't follow the most talented, they follow the most aligned. And alignment starts within, with the man in the mirror, with the voice in your head, with the truth in your gut, with the courage to look your old self in the eye and say, "Thank you for getting me here, but I don't need you anymore." Because the next version of your business, the one that lasts, the one that scales, the one that changes lives, won't be built by who you've been. It will be built by who you decide to become today. Sow this seed boldly. Stand without apology. Burn your excuses like old bridges. And walk with the posture of someone who knows where they're going, even if the world doesn't believe you yet. Because the world has never believed in pioneers until their vision is built. And when it is the same world that doubted you, we'll name schools after you. So build, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. Not to escape obscurity, but to honor the fire that refuses to die inside your chest. Because entrepreneurship at its core is not about the business. It's about the becoming. You see, the world is not changed by those who wait. It is changed by those who decide. Those who stand up and say, enough. Enough of the excuses. Enough of the mediocrity. Enough of pretending to be less than what they are. These are the entrepreneurs who don't just start businesses, they start movements. They don't just chase goals, they carry codes. Because when your life becomes rooted in values, everything changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You no longer chase energy, you are energy. You no longer sell products, you transfer belief. You no longer try to convince, you embody the result. You become living proof. And nothing sells like proof. Nothing inspires like embodiment. Nothing moves like truth that's been lived, bled, endured, and earned. So stop waiting to feel ready. You won't. Stop waiting for permission. No one's coming. Stop waiting for the perfect time. It doesn't exist. You create the time. You create the moment. You create the space. Right here, right now, with one powerful decision. I will no longer betray the vision I carry. That decision changes everything. That's the turning point. Not the investment, not the strategy, not the funnel. But the decision to build something worthy of your life. Because make no mistake, your life is your currency. And how you spend it will be your legacy. So if you're going to spend it on something eternal. Something rooted. Something that stretches you, demands all of you. Calls you out of hiding and into the arena where real players bleed for what they believe. Because that's where the game is played. Not on the sidelines, not in the comments section, not behind the veil of safety, but in the fire, in the building, in the becoming. That's where your soul meets your strategy. That's where your values go from being words to being war cries. And in that war, there will be moments you want to turn back. There will be nights you stare at the ceiling wondering if you made a mistake. There will be days the numbers say, quit. The noise says, settle. And the fear says, run. But hear this now. You are not a mistake. You are a miracle in motion. And the vision inside you is not random. It is assigned. Assigned to you, not your neighbor, not your competitor. You. You were given this fire because you are strong enough to carry it. You were given this vision because you are wise enough to build it. You were given this pressure because you are fierce enough to stand in it. And that means your calling is not a suggestion, it is a command. You're not here to dabble. You're here to dominate. Not through force, but through faith. Not through gimmicks, but through groundedness. Not through speed, but through sovereignty. Because the one who knows who they are, the one who walks in alignment, the one who refuses to break their code, even when it would be easier to bend, that one cannot be denied. And the world makes room for them. The doors open. The people come. The vision breathes, but only after the storm. Only after the proving. Only after you've been refined, remade, realigned not into someone else, but into the purest version of yourself. Because that's who the world is waiting for. Not a copy, not a clone, not a curated shell of somebody else's success, but you whole, raw, powerful, principled, relentless, free. And when you walk into the room like that with the weight of your values behind your words, with the fire of your commitment stitched into every action, people will feel it. They won't know what changed, but they'll feel it. Because energy doesn't lie. Because values leave a scent. Because the soul speaks louder than the script. And when your soul and your systems sing the same note, that's when movements begin. That's when tribes form. That's when the product becomes irrelevant because people are buying you. Your integrity, your energy, your walk. And that, my friend, is the final core value of entrepreneurship. Embodiment. To become the message. To live the sermon. To be the brand. Not with graphics, not with slogans, not with borrowed quotes, but with blood, decisions, consistency, and character. You don't just lead a business. You lead yourself. And the day you do that without apology, the day you rise and declare, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I build, and this is what I will never compromise, is the day the world takes its cue from you. Because leaders don't ask for influence. They become it. So become it. Right now. Right here. Not someday. Not after the certification. Not after the bank account grows. Now, you have everything you need. The values, the vision, the fire, the permission. The only thing left is the decision. And once you decide, don't look back. Don't apologize for your power. Don't shrink for the sake of comfort. Don't dilute your dream for the sake of acceptance. You were born to lead, to build, to blaze. So go, burn the bridges, build the empire, live the values, and don't stop until you hear your life echoing through the impact you've made. Not in likes, not in applause, but in the hearts changed, the families lifted, the minds awakened, and the world tilted just a little more toward greatness because you refused to settle, because you chose truth, because you became more than an entrepreneur. You became a standard. You became a movement. You became a force. And that is the core. That is the calling. That is the crown. Now wear it well and go build the world you were born to lead.